You say you've been an entrepreneur for 5 years, so you got everything figured out then. You like, girl, you're like an expert, right? Like there is no problem in your business. I mean, 5 years.
It took a lot of loss. It took a lot of letdowns. I guess you can say disappointments, depending on other people to come through and realizing like they don't have you. He didn't bring me to this vision not to give you the provision to see it through.
Yeah. And this is for anybody who is listening, because here's what I'm thinking that some of our listeners are going to feel like, damn, 5 years and I'm still going to be going through this. Yep. Welcome to the Nurse Boss Shift. It's your girl, Dr. Kiyonna Jones.
And I'm Christal P, the hormone NP.
Oh, yes, that's right. And today we have our very, very special guest and friend, Dr. Chakika Williams. Welcome to the shift, girl.
Thank you. So good to be here, ladies.
Yeah, so before we kind of dive in, y'all, we pretty much have already had a whole podcast. Right. Okay, so we got to talk about some of these things that we were catching up. Yes. But before we dive in, give us a little bit of information about you, your background, and where you're at right now.
So me, I am a nurse practitioner, double boarded, family and psych, doctorate prepared, from Chicago, Illinois, on a med spa out there in our suburban area. I've been a nurse for about 14 years now, 14 going on 15 years on my business. We made 5 years in August. So just all of the ups and downs of entrepreneurship is what I've been kind of juggling with this year, but I wouldn't change it. It's making me a better person overall and just really diving deep into my training, my academy. So that's the other part of me as well, is Skyro's RCS Medical Aesthetics Academy. That has been the cruel pit of everything. I'm a national trainer. I train in all 50 states. Training this weekend here in LA. Yes. Phoenix next weekend. Utah the weekend after that.
Oh my gosh.
And they just released my schedule for December, so I don't know where I'll be in December. But I'm pretty much a jet setter, as they like to say.
Yeah. And so tell us, you say you've been an entrepreneur for 5 years, so you got everything figured out then. You like, girl, you're like an expert, right? Like there is no problem in your business. I mean, 5 years.
That's what they think.
I'm trying to be funny because we had a whole conversation, y'all.
So 5 years is really like the first year of business, honestly. I do not have it figured out. It is a lot of up and downs. You have days where you are making $8,000 and days where you make $8 and days where and a lot of days where you make zero. So it's just like having the strength to keep pushing in those days where you're not making anything and you're looking in your bank account and it's like, oh, okay, I didn't got enough to buy a cup of coffee. So I'm going to pay this rent that's coming out on Friday type of thing. But what I've learned this year is that God got me. And when I stop worrying about where my money's going to come from, because when I say that I really do, up until last month, I was honestly doing Skyro's like 85-90%, and I was doing primary care on the side. This last month has been 100% Skyro's, but even just all this year, it's been like, okay, it's always like, okay, am I going to make my make the rent, make this, make that, and I don't know where it's coming from, but it's paid, and so he writing them checks behind the scene. That's all I can say.
I was going to ask you, because I think we've all learned that lesson within the last year or so, but how is it different from year one where you're struggling or not knowing if you're going to get the rent to year 5? Where you're just like, God got me. How has that changed you? Is it because it's happened so many times, speaking for myself, that he has you now?
That's it right there. So because I mean, I was born and raised and grew up in the church. I wasn't always 100% consistent in going to church. So it's like, I know a little bit. I'm not going to say I'm a Bible thumper or anything like that. But when I started really getting into praying, and over the last couple of years, we all were doing like devotional things together virtually and stuff, and just really, really honing in on that in those times where I would be stressing and he came through, or something happened and he'll come through. And so I got to the point like, girl, would you just shut up? Like, it's already taken care of. And then Recently I'm actually like reading the Bible from cover to cover.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like, oh man, that makes sense. And it's like applying it to my life and then understanding what I'm reading. Because we read stuff, but you don't understand it sometimes. Like you're just kind of reading through the motions. So as he has showed up and I know it was him behind it, it's just like, I know he got me. So it's like when I feel myself stressing about something, I pull myself back, like it's gonna work in your favor. It always does. Like we stress so much, but it's already worked out. And so me leaning into that more these last few months has really like set the tone to like know that I'm on the right path. I'm walking in my purpose. Do I know what my purpose is? No, I still be like, God, could you at least give me a clue?
Right.
Like, what I'm supposed to, but I feel like I'm walking in that purpose. If I can tell you exactly what it is, I'm still trying to figure that out. But I know it's to help the masses in this space that I'm in. And it's more about me. It's more about me giving than receiving. And that's what I'm learning. Kind of like just been my focus right now is just trying to figure out how to give back to the ones that's reaching for me. Because not everybody has someone that they can talk. And we all know it's a lot of gatekeepers. It's a lot of gatekeepers. It's a lot of breadcrumbers. And so it's like I try to set the tone to not be them. So when I do talk to providers who are looking to come over here or even just a word of encouragement, it's like I'm always, that's just me. I'm like, I'll give what I can give. But of course, if it requires too much of my time, then that's going to kind of lean over into the consultant side for the most part. But I'm always trying to help whoever I can because it get lonely at the top.
Yes. A couple of things you touched on. So I got so many questions to unpack after what you just said, by the way. So I'm just, as you're talking, I'm trying to be like, okay, don't forget that. Don't forget that. I want to talk about scarcity because I feel like in the beginning, that's where we rest. Like when we first start in business, we are just so afraid of not having, and we focus on lack. So when you were just talking about that, I was thinking, I remember when everything was lack. Like I would be like, oh, Lord, please, I don't have this. I don't have that. I need this. I need that. And it's all we're doing is lack, instead of focusing on abundance. Like, and I think, and you, Christal, you can speak to this or you, Dr. Keke, but when we grow through our pains, we develop a level of confidence. And it's not confidence in us. It's confidence in God that he's going to figure it out. And then we start leaning into abundance because now it's just like we know, I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be something and it's going to be in my favor, whatever that is. Even when I'm in the worst of the worst or going through the worst of the worst times, I know it's going to be in my favor. So I feel like lack and then abundance is a skill, especially as an inexperienced entrepreneur who may not have had anyone to really guide you and teach you, which all of us kind of are starting from scratch, right? We hire mentors and all that, but we still didn't have anyone to take our hand and our family and like show us, right? So I feel like that is something that we develop. What would you say your process was to get to this point to say, God's got me? Like, what did it take? Like, give us some examples of.
It took a lot of, I guess you can say, banging my head against the wall. It took a lot of loss. It took a lot of letdowns. I guess you can say disappointments, depending on other people to come through and realizing like they don't have you, like he's gonna have you, and like and just trusting that I know what I'm doing. I may not be an expert, but he didn't bring me to this vision not to give me the provision to see it through.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of like some examples would just be, I guess I had to downsize.
Yeah.
So I had a brick and mortar. I was there for 3 years and we made enough to keep the doors open.
Yeah.
So we were breaking even in a sense on that side of the boat, but it was like my lease was coming up. I knew they were going to probably go up in the rent for another round. And my overhead transparency, I'm like $9,000 a month. That's not including my household. My income was coming from my business, which is really just breaking even. Yeah. So what's covering my household? So I had to really sit down and make a decision. Like, do I stay here for the sake of aesthetics? Because it's a brick and mortar and it's pretty and I built it completely out from the ground up.
Yo, baby.
And it's my baby. And I put all this money into it out of my pocket because I ain't know nothing about no OPM.
Yes. Other people's money, by the way. Go ahead.
So it's like, do I walk away all this hard work and sweat that I just put into somebody else's business?
Yes.
Somebody else's building. Let me rephrase that. And me doing that does that equate to me failing my journey?
Right? Yes.
And so it was hard. I mean, it's just like, it was really emotional because I'm getting emotional about it now.
Exactly.
Because like, do you just give all that up? And so when I spoke to other people and they gave me a different perspective, it's not failing.
We talked about it.
It's
you and I talked about that too when you were going through it. And I remember you were like struggling with that. And I got it. I understood. So when you pivot, then what does that mean for the outside? Like, what do people think? Like, did you fail because your plan was to start that business and grow it?
In my mind, I'm going backwards, right? And it's not even so much my mind, it's my mind and what others
and that's really the talk about it, please.
So it's like, I wasn't going backwards. I was going back to the drawing board because I ran my course on that lane. And so as a business owner, we have to pivot. You know, we have to pivot. And not being a business owner before, this is my first time being a business owner, I didn't know I had to pivot. I didn't know. I learned that we're going to pivot probably 100 more times. You know, I came to terms with me downsizing. And then the other big thing too was where I was downsizing too. So I was looking at other places. I found one spot and praying, you know, because I said if I got a spot, I didn't want to be too like enclosed. And if I was enclosed, I had to have like a window so you can still kind of see me type of thing. So it was one spot that I was just it was almost like I was settling. But they didn't call and he blocked it because it wasn't what I wanted. I was fighting against where I am now because that's where I started.
Oh.
So I'm back in the same suites that I was in.
I must have forgot that part.
Yeah, so I started in a suite. And so I'm not in the exact same suite, but I'm back in the same building. And
with three suites, though.
Yes, with 3 suites. There you go. So I did downsize, but I got a double suite, and then I got a single suite because I still needed my office filling and for my academy side. But honestly, it's that overhead has been cut in half. I don't have to worry about nothing really but just the rent.
I always say sometimes you have to like sit down to go forward, or sometimes you got to take a step back to go forward because you need that time. You need the less stress so you can think. If you're constantly just trying to make the basic or make the rent, you have no time to think about other things and to strategize how you're going to move ahead. You're just in the rat race. So sometimes you have to take that step back in order to move forward.
Even doing, and this is recently, April. So I've been back in April, but I'll pivot again.
It's so, let me say this. And this is for anybody who is listening, because here's what I'm thinking that some of our listeners are going to feel like, damn, 5 years and I'm still going to be going through this. Yeah. And the real question is, why, as you're talking, I'm thinking, because I launched in 2018. I like started and I'm still going through it. So I'm like, why the hell are we doing this? And I want to ask you, like, why are you still doing in 2024? Because 2024 has been one heck of a year. We've talked about that and we're going to dive into that. But why are you still doing it?
So what's keeping me going?
Yeah.
My family. I have 3 kids, 23, 17, 8, and I have a grandbaby that is 8 months. And so my daughter, she's the only girl out of my clan. And when I say I am her idol, she watches everything I do. Yeah. Like, shoot, the business is her. Sky Rose is Skylar Rose. That's my daughter's name. Okay. She'll tell you in a minute, she's the CEO. She wants to be me, be like me. It's like, I can't fail them. And so my goal is to leave a legacy. So many people look at all of us or some of us and like, oh, you're chasing money. I'm not chasing money. I'm chasing the freedom that money is going to bring me. So it's like, I want my time freedom and my financial freedom. And yes, I got to hustle. I got to be gone. I got to do this. I got to do that. So I may not be around or available or present for a lot of stuff right now in my hustle season. And I don't feel guilty about it anymore. But my kids is kind of what's keeping me going. And I don't want to work. I can't
Man, right?
I tried it.
Okay, I have a question, and this is for both of you guys because this is something that I've been pondering like over some months now. And I've been seeing, I'm sure you guys have been seeing on social media, a lot of people going back to work. Ooh, a lot of people going back to work. Like people in our industry, people who we may have even looked up to and not, still look up to, but I'm just saying like who we thought had it all figured out, they are going back to work. How has that impacted you? And I know you said you don't like working for people. I don't either. I get that part.
I tried to go back earlier this year. I'm not proud of it. I'm not proud that I went back, but like as a business owner and having to lack in something for somebody else's business, I know the feeling because I don't want nobody to lack. So it's like, if I can't give them me, then I can't work for anybody because like my span is over here and I'm gonna be half aiding you. Not fair because you're a business owner and I know how it is because I'm a business owner. But I mean, I see it and I don't knock it. You got to do what you got to do for your own situation. But I just feel like some of us, what I'm identifying, and I can speak for myself, is when I came into the whole entrepreneurship, business-ship, I had no knowledge base. And so to piggyback on what you said for our listeners that are listening, you may not be still going through it at 5 or 6 years if you get the right knowledge in the beginning. I didn't have that.
Can we talk about that mentorship? Can we talk about that, which we say every single episode?
Attention, aspiring entrepreneurs in the healthcare industry. Have you ever dreamt of starting your own successful IV hydration business? Well, your dream is about to become a reality. Imagine a business where you can make a difference in people's lives while building a thriving venture. We're excited to invite you to a free webinar that will unlock the secrets to launching a successful IV hydration business. Join us for an exclusive event where industry experts will share invaluable insight on the essential steps to launch your IV hydration business, building a 6-figure business from scratch, navigating the challenges in the healthcare entrepreneurship journey. But that's not all. Attendees of the webinar will get a sneak peek into our comprehensive IV hydration on-demand course. Discover how this course has empowered others just like you to turn their passion into profit. Picture this: lifetime access to in-depth video trainings, business strategies, SOPs, and exclusive bonuses that can catapult your success.
Register now for our free webinar at https://apply.trueusavvy. That's truusavvy.com/training. Don't miss this opportunity to kickstart your journey to a rewarding and lucrative IV hydration business.
I had a mentor that I started with for like the business side of just like a base, but like for the aesthetic world.
Yeah.
That is a different world.
It's an expensive world.
It's a very expensive world. And so not knowing what I'm learning now, like I feel like my last 2 years is really my first 2 years. Because the first 3 years, I really was falling on my face and like, okay, I ain't gonna do that. Let me put that little Band-Aid right there. And not falling, hit something else, like, nope, don't do that no more. And just kept falling and like, that's my experience. So now from all of those experiences, now I'm applying it in those lessons. Yeah. And so it's like, that's why we're kind of still going through it, because I had to learn along the way. I didn't have a mentor from day one to basically for aesthetics to say, market this, target that, ideal who, what, avatar, what is the avatar, what is the ICP, what is this, you want me to do what? Yes, all these acronyms. I didn't have any of that. So what I see, I feel like they're going back because we're just jumping off the boat with no life jacket.
Can I, and Christal, I want you to, what's your thoughts on that with everybody going back in 2024?
Well, sometimes I can understand because I am just, it's almost to the point where I just don't want to think anymore. I do just want to go to work, clock in, but then, because I still work per diem, and I have to think, if I were to do this, it's cool now with the 2 days, but if I had to do that 5 days a week, I would absolutely lose my mind. Just what they expect. I don't run, it's hard too because I run my clinic where my patients come in, we talk. I don't look at time when I'm at work, so that's another thing. I'm always behind because I'm just talking to them about hormones and weight loss. But sometimes being a business owner, and I see both sides, like, yes, I just don't want to think. Because being a business owner is 24/7. You're always thinking about it. There's just no relief. So I can see why it is easier to just get a job for some. But then when I think of the other benefits, so, being able to just maneuver how I want or make your schedule later or earlier. I hate getting up on Tuesdays and Thursdays to go to. So that one thing alone could make them stop. But I understand it. I absolutely understand it.
I get it.
But there's just that part that, because, and like you always says, it really feels like the next day could be it. Like the next day could be the day where it takes off. And I feel like I'm right there. So that's what keeps me hanging on, especially with my new pivot, feeling like I found my passion. So I feel like it's right there. Yeah.
And it is, the thing is, talked about it off scene, we got to learn to be still.
Yes.
We got to learn to be still, because we can be right there and we talk ourselves out of it and we turn back.
Yeah.
And it's right there.
Yeah. I've been a full-time entrepreneur since 2021. And every other month, I'm thinking about applying for a job, or like I'm talking about one time in particular, I prepared my whole family. I'm going up north, y'all, and I'm gonna work this house soup gig, and we gonna get some money. And it was honestly, I was on interviews, everything. This had to be in 2023, and I just couldn't do it. Like I could not, and it wasn't. No judgment to nobody who's going back to work. Definitely. Like you said, listen, do what you got to do for your family. Because ultimately, if it came down to the I'm going back for my family. But at the same time, what God has been telling me, especially this year has been like no other. I'm 30% down in my revenue. Everybody is affected. People don't have money like they used to, especially after COVID. And so, what God told me just as clear as day is like, are you going to have faith in me, or you are going to believe in yourself and your capability? Because if you are only focusing on what you're capable of doing, you've lost.
You lost already.
You've lost the war, right? So are you going to lean into me, or are you going to allow your limiting beliefs to cause you to go and get a job? And every time I would think about it and work through it, like, you know how you just go through, okay, if I do this, then this, then this, and that. It was always ended bad. It was like, I am setting myself up if I don't just trust. Yeah. And that is why, and every time I would see people going back, I'd say, see, like, it's okay. Like, I could go back, I could go, but do I have to like, am I at the absolute point where I have no other options? No, Kiyonna, get in them DMs and talk to people. No, Kiyonna, reach out to people. Stop trying to wait for people to reach out to you. That's another thing. That's a lesson for y'all too. Yes. Stop waiting for people to reach out to you. Like, we had it good in 2020, 2021 because people was banging down our doors. Now we in the real world.
We gotta go get them.
Get your butt up.
We gotta go
get on them calls. Reach out to them people.
We just had this conversation just talking about employment, like me looking to employ other people and like why it's been so hard. And the thing is, a lot of nurses that want to come into this industry, because everybody wants to be an injector. It's like this seal of whatever. Yeah. They don't realize the hustle. You got to have a hustle. You got to have a grit. And you got to be tenacious with it, right? And so, and as a nurse, they confuse the two. As a bedside nurse, those patients coming to you. Over here in the aesthetic world, we got to go to them. Yeah. We got to go and find them and bring them to us, and they don't get it. And then when they get in here and they realize, like, oh, I got to actually get in the kitchen and cook. Let me go back to this bed. Yeah. You got to understand, like, what you're walking into as an entrepreneur, because someone want to just be, everybody want to be a business owner. Like, everybody that I interview, they want to start their own. I'm like, you sure?
Yeah, they don't
switch
really,
places, right?
They think they do.
They don't. And then when they realize how much work it is, it's like they're so overwhelmed by it. And so, that's why you see, like you say, retreating back, what you refer to as the stripper pole. Yeah, right. Going back to the pole. Going back to the pole, a.k.a. bedside. Or whatever, because it's like they didn't realize how much planning you really should be doing before trying to start a business, how much capital you should have up in your accounts before starting a business. Understanding other people, like I say, I funded my entire build out cash. Had I met y'all 2 years prior, I probably have a lot more say, but it's lessons, and I don't even look at it as losses. No. I look at a lot of things that happen now. When it happens, I don't even get mad anymore. I'm like, okay, what was my lesson?
That's it.
I'm like, what's my lesson?
That's the question.
What I'm going to take from that? When my friends call and they have, like, even when we're dealing with, like, clients or whatever, it's like, I don't get offended. What I'm going to do differently so this don't happen with another client. I don't get offended anymore. It's like, what is the lesson he's trying to teach me, or what paperwork we need to have in place so now this person can't come and say the same thing because now we got the paperwork in place. It ain't nothing we can do. We can't keep crying over spilled milk. So it's like, okay, that happened. They slid through the crack. Let's get this consent so nobody else can get through the crack. So
5 years, and you may mention that there are people, if this might not be their 5 year. And I want to talk about some things that because hindsight is always 2020. So when you look back, what would be like 3 things that you would tell people, like, if you're thinking about starting a business, because y'all know this don't have nothing to do with aesthetics. This is all about the fundamentals of business. So what would you say, like, are like 3 things you would tell people, like, don't even think about starting a business until you 1, 2, 3?
It's gonna always be my top 3, because I get this question probably pretty much when I do any interview. The first one is you got to have your mind right. So mindset. And that can come from journaling. That can come from personal development books. That can come from motivational speaking, things of that nature. And then 2, mentorship. Mentorship and coaching. Why would you try to do something that you have no experience in, and it's 10 people right there that's 10 steps ahead of you? Even if they 1 step ahead of you, they did it already. Why wouldn't you try to lock arms with them? And granted, I get it. It's a lot of gurus on social media that's calling themselves gurus. Just do your research. But you need a mentor in that industry, whatever industry it is, whatever coaching, whatever, to help you along the way so you don't make the same mistakes that they potentially made and can help you. That's just, I mean, it's like being a mama. These kids don't listen either.
Right.
You try to tell them, like, don't do that. I did that. But they still got to fall on their head and find out the hard way. But definitely a mentor in a community.
Yes.
You got to have a community.
Let's go. That's so important.
Yep.
Y'all might not know this, but Chakika was on our podcast before. She looked familiar, y'all. Where I was hosting a retreat, and it was you and Dr. Cobbs on that podcast, and we were just talking about entrepreneurship there. And you have to have a community. Like, you need people who are where you are, ahead of you, behind you. Like, you just need a community
to lean
of people.
into, to bounce things off of, to check
resources.
to be that
talk you off the ledge.
Talk you off the ledge.
You know, even just to motivate you, to make you give yourself grace, because we always go, and I don't stop to even celebrate my own accomplishments. Like, it's been a lot of people like, you did this, you did. I'm like, but I'm on to the next. Like, you have to stop and just appreciate, like, where I was 5 years ago, what I've accomplished in these last 5 years. When I'm reading through my own bio on presentation, I'm like, dang, that was me. I did that. And then when I'm done, it's like, after I read it, I'm reading through it, and before they like, oh my God, that's there. I'm like, it makes me stop, like, what they so happy. I've accomplished a lot in the last 5 years, not even just as far as my designations, but for my business. We've just posted, 3 years in a row, best medical spa in our area. 3 years in a row. Academy, 3 years in a row, best educational institution in our area, which got us a Hall of Fame spot for being the best educational institution 3 years in a row. Black, iHeart Brilliantly Black Business Award last year. Co-hosted on radio stations. Just spoke at the expo in Chicago. So it's just like, I'm like, I need to stop so I can take all that in. And like, you know, you won here 5 years ago, you was just figuring out like what a LC was. You know?
Talk about it.
So it's just like, have to give ourselves grace in what we're doing, even with the failures. The failures are lessons. It's not, it's the end all be all. So that's just kind of my take on it.
And it's funny because every single episode when we ask those type of questions, we get the same answers. And it's still funny how some people still are not willing to
get a mentor.
They don't want to make the investment. They don't want to make the investment. They're like, I can go to Google. I can go to YouTube.
You hit it. It's the investment. They feel like it can be outside of their budget. I live by your price is your price. I'm not going to never say someone's too high, too expensive. It's just outside that person's budget. But it's an investment. And the reason that's an investment because you're going to get an ROI on that information you're getting. It's not an expense.
Tell them what ROI means, though.
Return on your investment. So you're going to get that return on your investment. It's not an expense. So you have to understand that, because if you don't invest in a mentor, you're going to wish you did, because now you're going to come back and spend money because you just wasted $100,000. If you would have spent that $20 on that mentor, you probably could have saved $80,000. But they got to learn the hard way.
I think people too, just hearing you say that, probably don't even trust themselves that they'll do the work
That's
to get
key.
their investment back.
That's
So they just figure,
yeah.
I'll just do it the cheap way.
Yeah.
So if I need to bail, then I only spent.
Only spent
But then you find yourself
right back
in the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Like $100K down the line because you keep trying to figure it out. And you don't want to stop, but
and you study paying this person.
Right.
You paying cheap. You spending $1,000, but you spend $1,000 100 times.
Yeah. Right.
And you're still in the same boat.
Yep.
I spoke to Potential, and she had invested $20,000 in some business program that was for 3 months, 90 days. And then another, she went to the one you went to. I don't want to say names, but the training.
Recently?
She went recently, but the one you went to in the beginning, the one that gave you all of those courses, that big membership, that training.
Yes, I know what you're talking about. At the beginning of this year.
Yeah. So she went to them too, where you get all these extra 100 courses, modules, but who gonna do all the trainings, right? So she did them as well. So they have memberships $10,000, $15,000 as well. So we're talking about she's like $30K in the hole, and on a call with me.
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
You just spent $30,000.
Yeah.
Why you not open?
Yeah. That just reminds me too, a lot of people are getting the wrong, like you got to get the mentor for where you are. So my first mentor was a mindset coach. She helped me I still have blocks, but she helped me unblock a lot of the mindset blocks that I had. That's where everyone should start. They should have some type of mindset piece, even if it's not that they're a mindset coach, but for the business, they have to have, if this is your first time ever, you got to do mindset. Like you're going to lose if
you don't realize what you're walking into.
And you invest in those high ticket programs like the one you were just mentioning that I went to, and it's way over your head. Like you looking like, okay, you, like you said, you barely know what an LLC is. You don't know what ROI is. You don't know. So now you feel like it's trash, but really you were not ready for that. You went too far.
You went to the Oscars.
And it's bad because they let you come in. Because they should have said, no, this is not for you. We're not ready, but they're going to take your money.
And speaking of that, I just had one. She took a training, just my basic training, but she's not ready to do like the business side of it. So it wasn't in her budget to do the consulting portion. So if you couldn't afford to do the consulting portion, you're not going to be able to afford to even start your business. Because how much money you think you're going to put into your business? So you're looking for the mentor. Yeah. She got the right mindset to get the mentor, but couldn't afford to get the mentor right now because financially she's not in that position. So it's like, I could have been like, girl, I got you, and took the money. But now I get you to that point, and you can't even sustain your business because you didn't even have the money to even start with. And now we talking about business expenses to get started. Your LLC, your EIN, trademark, and so forth, your location, equipment, whatever. And you didn't even have that in the beginning to just get the mentor. So like you say, somebody else would have been like, oh yeah, come on, took that money and set on her way. And now she's still at square one a month or 2 or 3 months later, or however long it took them. Like you said, they're taking their money. But yes, she spent $30,000+. She's retired. She's like, this is her year, but she's not open.
Yeah. That's so unfortunate. And then that's why people don't trust too. That's why it's like that. Oh my God, we need a part 2 because we got a lot still to cover. Right. Like I feel like we haven't really been able to kind of dive into even the aesthetic space and all that. But I did feel like talking about this year was really important because that's kind of where we veered off on when you first got here, just kind of talking about how crazy this year has been. Would you still say that people who want to start a business should start a business even in 2024?
Yeah, I definitely think they should, with the right guidance.
Yeah.
With the right guidance, with the right preparation. Don't just wake up and go and get your LLC EIN and say you got a business. Yeah. Like, actually plan and strategize. And
we've covered some great insights so far, but the best is yet to come. Stay tuned for the second half of the Nurse Boss Shift. It's going to get even more exciting. See you again on Monday.